This is Brian Calle for Orange County Register Opinion, and I'm here once again with Carly Fiorina, who's running for United States Senate out in California. Carly, thanks for joining us again.
It's great to be with you again.
So it's been a couple months since we had you on last. Have the priorities changed in your campaign? What's going on?
Well, the priorities haven't changed. They are the same. We have to create jobs once again in the private sector. We have to get government spending under control. Those priorities are even more pressing actually now. Our unemployment rate continues to rise. We now have 23 counties with unemployment above 15% in this state, and spending continues unabated and out of control in Washington, D.C. We've added 100,000 bureaucrats in just the last 12 months. And this election is about holding Barbara Boxer accountable. She's been there 28 years. She has failed the people of California. It's time that we hold her to account and send somebody new to Washington.
Now, should you be elected day one or week one, what do you do when you get to Washington, D.C.? What are your priorities?
Well, the first thing that I will do, honestly, and I believe I said this to you last time, I'll go sit down with Senator Dianne Feinstein and work with her to get the water turned back on in our state, because the lack of water in our Central Valley is a huge issue. It impacts the job opportunities of many, many thousands of people. And we need to work towards, of course, a longer-term solution for our water problems as well. I can do that with Senator Dianne Feinstein, but let's start with the short term.
Now, you've been vocal about repealing Obamacare. Are there any other types of legislation that Obama has passed in the last few months, Senator Barbara Boxer may have voted on in the last couple of months, that you would think about repealing or working to tweak?
Well, you know, Barbara Boxer and I disagree about virtually everything. It's why she said that this race offers the clearest choice in the nation. You know, she votes against free trade agreements. I believe that this state is helped hugely by trade. 20% of our economy depends on it. She campaigned in 1992 on a platform of universal health care. I think that Obamacare has created a raft of problems. It will not help people get care. I take it personally since I'm a breast cancer survivor. I do think we have to repeal it and start over and do it right so that people have access to quality, affordable health care. And so that we're not saddling small businesses with these hidden costs that they're suddenly finding out about. A small business now has to fill out a 1099 for every company with whom they do more than $600 worth of business to try and pay for the health care bill. That's crazy. So I also believe that one of the most important things we need to do is start getting government spending under control. So, you know, Barbara Boxer doesn't believe in a balanced budget. She doesn't believe in capping government spending. She's demonstrated her beliefs through her votes. I think we need to get government spending under control.
What about since we were here last time, the financial services bill passed, as you know. What do you think about that?
You know, to me, it's typical politics, sadly. That's why I think people are tired of career politicians, because what happened with that bill, you know, we had a Wall Street meltdown, terrible situation. We had 20 plus federal government agencies that were supposed to be minding the store. They all failed. We had Fannie and Freddie, who still own 52% of the mortgages in our country. They are in conservatorship to the U.S. taxpayer with unlimited liabilities. And in essence, what Barbara Boxer said in voting for this piece of legislation, she said, never mind the 20 plus agencies that failed. We're not going to reform them. Never mind Fannie and Freddie, we're just going to leave them alone. What we're going to do is create another government bureaucracy called the Consumer Protection Agency. The creation of that bureaucracy now requires 533 new pieces of regulation to be written by bureaucrats who are accountable to no one. It's going to be a lobbyist's heaven.
Yeah.
And we haven't dealt with the fundamental problems. That's why folks are tired of career politicians. Let's focus on the real problems and solve them.
I hear that from small businesses all the time. They're really worried about the financial services bill, and that bureau in particular. Something we didn't talk about last time you were here, which would be great for our viewers, I think, is, you know, who are some of you, maybe one or two of your intellectual heroes, so that we get a lens into your principles, how you intend to lead if you're elected to Congress.
Well, I must say one of my most important intellectual heroes was my dad. My father was a Democrat until Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and he became a Republican. And he became a Republican because he could see the impact of sprawling government bureaucracy and overreach. And, you know, the truth is the Depression got much, much worse. during Franklin Roosevelt's tenure. It got worse because of protectionism. It got worse because taxes were increased. It got worse because of out-of-control spending, all of which we're seeing yet again.
The parallels to today.
Yes, the parallels to today. And the other thing, so from my dad, I learned the principles of limited government, but then I went to work. And what I found out working in the business world is that when people make decisions who are very far away from a situation, they're usually bad decisions. That's why when I was a CEO, I tried to push decisions closer to customers, closer to the employees who dealt with customers. So I apply that principle now to Washington. If you're 3,000 miles away and you don't come home very often, that would be Barbara Boxer, the decisions you're making are not likely to help the people in California because you don't understand what they're dealing with. We need to begin to push decisions, money, options, opportunity back to the people of California and out of Washington, D.C. That's how we're going to get our economy growing again, and that's how we're going to get government spending and government bureaucracy under control again as well.
Absolutely. One last question, just on the race itself and some of the criticisms that Barbara Boxer has laid against you. One of the things that she's trying to paint the campaign as, it seems to a kind of class warfare, where you are a CEO and you were not a good CEO and you were out of touch with the American people, and this protectionist view that you outsource jobs. I mean, how do you respond to that? And it's kind of hypocritical for her, of all people, to say that you as a CEO, a job creator, were forcing jobs out of the country, when many of us might believe that it was the regulation that forced companies out of the country.
Of course it's hypocritical. It's hypocritical because Barbara Boxer has acted for 28 years in Washington, D.C. as though she's accountable to no one. And she continues to support pieces of legislation, pieces of regulation, spending that is destroying jobs in this state and in our nation. Either she doesn't understand where jobs come from, or she doesn't care. It's also hypocritical because she's taken many tens of thousands of dollars worth of campaign contributions from lots of companies that outsource jobs. So she either should get the money back, or she should be honest about the impact of her policies. When I started out my career, I was a secretary. I typed, I filed, I answered the phones. And I was held accountable for my work by my boss. I remember my boss coming to me one day and saying, the labels on the envelopes are crooked, you have to redo it. And when I was a CEO, I was accountable to millions of customers and thousands of shareholders and tens of thousands of employees. Barbara Boxer has behaved for 28 years as if she's not accountable to anyone. And that is why the people of California have a very important choice now. We can keep going with Barbara Boxer and we're going to get more of the same. Or we can say, you know what, maybe it's time we tried something else.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. We tried to have Barbara Boxer, but couldn't get her to come. So appreciate having you here.
Don't take it personally. She doesn't show up for a lot of people here in California.
From your mouth, not mine. This is Brian Calle from the Orange County Register.